Right, okay, we'll start with what is a botanical. Okay, it says in the OED that a substance obtained from a plant and used typically in medicinal or cosmetic products. We will see that it's not always botanicals of a vegetable background or a plant background that are used. We have got some gins out there with some strange things in them, which we'll see as we move through the slides. It was once said to me, if you can smell it, you can distill it. We'll also see that that's also not quite true, because sometimes you have to think about the legalities of what you're adding. There are issues to some things. A bit about my background. I started as a brewery engineer, and I was the engineer who installed the distillery in 2009, and in 2010 became the distiller because I was the only one who knew how to turn it on. So it was quite handy. And have subsequently done diploma in distilling, etc. But I did that after I'd started distilling. And if any of you are in the process of developing recipes, it's good fun, but not particularly easy sometimes. But yeah, I'll hopefully help you a bit. Okay, so botanical families. Gins will use 1, 2, 3, or maybe all of these families in your gin. Certainly I do a gin, a 13 botanical gin that has a bit of everything, but I also do a 6 botanical gin that is just mainly really floral and fruity. So if you're developing a recipe, you have to think about what you want to do. Do you want to include all of these or some of these? And you go for it, really. Certainly one of the gin, I actually purchased nearly every botanical I could think of at the time, which wasn't actually that many. And one day I decided to just put them all in, see what happens. And that became first-rate gin, which was quite nice. When they say, actually, that's not too bad, we'll put it in a bottle and sell it. That's not always a good thing, because sometimes, just from an aside, we made limoncello, because I went into our marketing department and they had 2 bottles of limoncello. Nothing to do with gin, but there we go. And I said, why have you got 2 bottles of Italian limoncello on your desk? And they said, because we're going to buy some to put in our shops. I said, well, don't do that, I can make it. And they went, oh, can you? So off I went, and I made 1 bottle of limoncello, zested 5 lemons. Took me a while. And they said, oh, that's quite nice. Can you make 2,000 bottles? I went, oh. But I did actually find a supplier of frozen lemon zest, which is quite handy. Okay. Is it okay to use? Is the botanical you'd like to use actually available? And is it illegal? Is it legal in the target market you want to go for? The picture there is of tonka beans. Tonka beans have a very nice vanilla flavour. But you have to be careful. They're actually banned in the States. So if you think you're going to make your gin and then you're going to export it across the world, if it's got tonka beans in it, you can't use it. Not a problem in Europe, but a problem if you then want to sell it on to the States. Another one, we're all aware of bison grass vodka. If you buy it in the UK, it will have a stem of grass on it. If you buy it in the States, it doesn't have the grass on it, for the same reason that tonka beans are not allowed. They contain a chemical coumarin, which is not legal over there. And GRAS, I'll put on there, generally recognised as safe. So this will help you a little bit. Okay, this is Food Drug Administration. This is a website you can go to with lists of, certainly for the US market anyway, foods that are generally recognised as safe. So it's worthwhile to go on that if you think you want to use something that's bizarre, just to see if it's on the list. So if it's not on the list, chances are you won't be able to sell it in the States. In Europe, it's slightly more difficult. There is no list you can go to, nothing you can look at, which can be a bit of a problem. If it's used by someone else, you're probably all right. But if you pick something that is, completely unique to you, you have to do some checks. Certainly, in the brewery, the head brewer just purchased a considerable quantity of spruce tips, pine tips, which come from a local forest because he wants to add them to a beer, which is great, but apparently it's not a recognised food ingredient in the EU. So if anyone wants any, got rather large. They're all frozen, so they're fine. But yeah, so you just be careful. So that website is very handy to go to, and you can have a look and see if someone's actually used that product before, used that botanical before, and then you can hopefully go ahead and use it. Okay, the base spirit. Technically not botanical, but one thing that will add flavour. We actually distill our own base spirit, so because we're a brewery, primarily a brewery, We make a wash, which we then distill into a vodka, which we then use as our base spirit for our gin. So it must be distilled to 96% currently. There are people who are not necessarily commercially, but making gins using whiskies and other products, which technically aren't gin because they don't meet the EU regulation, 110-2008, as mentioned earlier. But I think, or we think, I should say, from a company point of view, that the base spirit, certainly our base spirit, does add something to the gin. One of ours uses the 6 botanical gin that was mentioned earlier, uses a 100% neutral spirit made from barley, which has the sweetness of barley because we don't filter it. So we don't filter out any flavour. And the other gin we make uses a different type of vodka made from 3 grains. Uses primarily wheat but with some oats, and that adds a creamy texture to the final product. More of a mouthfeel rather than a flavour. There are other gins out there using a grape base, vegetable base, potatoes or whatever. It depends whatever you've got hold of if you want to make your base spirit yourself. You obviously need lots more equipment. If you look on the front cover, those big columns are to make vodka. We make the gin in a pot still with no column at all. A lot more investment is required if you want to do that. And you need a big brewery, really. Always quite handy. Okay, themes. Some gins are based around a theme. So I'll just go to the first example. Gin Murray. Okay? So what they're doing, they're actually taking all their botanicals around the theme of Mediterranean. So they're using olives, rosemary, and thyme, and a few other ingredients to give some provenance to their gin. It's also from I can't remember what the base spirit is now. Is it grape? Christopher, no? New one? Not really sure. Desmond, yeah. Thank you. Okay, so that is an interesting gin with an olivey type flavour as opposed to the gin that comes through the most. Opiate gin. This is quite new, and basically what they've done, the actual list of botanicals aren't that unusual, but they're all from the spice route. So they've got a theme, they've got a USP, which is good, I think. Okay, and that helps to promote your product. Botanist, locally sourced. Lots of their botanicals actually come from Islay, and it's actually made on Islay, I believe. Bruladic, I think. Okay. Moving on, unusual botanicals, which is what I was asked to talk about. We got there. Okay, there's gins out there that use one or more interesting botanical, and the first one is, that one. Okay, I even got the medals on. Okay, Cophouse gin, hibiscus flowers. When I developed it, you need to, it's coming up with a plan, and what you want, there's thousands of botanicals you can use, but which ones do you choose? Just before I got sent into the lab, when Jonathan Adnams said to me, I'll go make gin, well, that's an easy thing to say, isn't it? But not, you go, well, what am I going to put in it? And just before I'd actually got sent into that, I'd been on a diving holiday to Egypt. And when you get to the hotel, they give you hibiscus tea. I thought that's quite nice. Now, how am I going to get a ready supply of hibiscus at home? I know. It's really fruity and floral. I have it as a gin botanical. And it's fantastic. I really like it. It's an unusual flower. Lovely fruity floral flavour. And I included it in this gin. And it's obviously done quite well, which I'm very pleased about. What else have we got here? Sacred. One of the first distillers I met at London Wine Fair about 4 or 5 years ago was Ian Hart from Sacred Distillery, and he had a bowl of this resinous lumps of resin, which I was not even sure what they were. And you pick it up and you chew it, and apparently it was frankincense. And I've never actually seen or held frankincense, but I'm not sure how it distills or how he actually cold distills that. Breaks it down and adds it to the gin. Algae. I thought this was quite strange. I had quite a little trawl around the internet to find weird botanicals. This is collected as a seaweed off the beach, close to the distillery, I believe, and added as one of the botanicals. I'm not sure how they get about the different seasonal changes. Another consideration is also is the botanical available all year? Will you be able to get hold of it in the winter when you used to you distill in the summer with it, but all you need more gin in it's December? Can you get hold of the botanical? So it's something you also need to consider. What do we have next? Baobab fruit. In elephant gin, baobab fruit, similar to our pine needle problem, baobab was not a recognised ingredient in the EU, although it's widely, largely consumed in Africa, in South Africa, etc. It wasn't actually an ingredient in the EU until recently. Now, whether it's elephant gin who found that or someone else, I'm not really sure, but on the internet it said that baobab fruit was not a recognised ingredient, but it is now. Okay, Bulldog, quite a popular brand. Dragon eye, which is similar to a lychee and actually looks like an eye, is used in Bulldog, and they also use lotus flower, which is quite nice. I'm not actually sure what a single lotus flower smells and tastes like, but maybe I should look into it. I'm rattling through these and I've got many slides left. Are we up to half an hour yet? Okay. Some distillers use ingredients which are not of botanical origin. I am really getting close to the end. They're not actually botanicals, so they're not of botanic origin. But we have an example of cream. This is made by, for Worship Street Whistling Shop, hard to say, especially after a couple of gins, by Masters of Malt. So they vacuum distill cream and then add that in a compound form to their gin to give more of a mouthfeel than anything. Nice creamy texture. I haven't actually tried it. In fact, Tristan's in a bit. In this afternoon, maybe he'll bring a bottle. And you have all heard of Noma, the restaurant in Copenhagen. Best restaurant in the world. A local distillery to me in Cambridge made a gin for them using ants, which I'm not sure could be on a botanical list, and don't actually think that was those ants. I haven't actually spoken to them, probably a honey ant or something like that. For their gin, which is bizarre, but I think they do some bizarre things.